So if you could imagine everything that you know within the blink of an eye being swept away, and you're left with what you feel like is absolutely nothing. There was nothing that could equate to feeling disappointed by God. So it's Christmas 2014, and my mom walks in and she in short tells me that she has cancer. And I remember when she told me, I was like, okay, all right, we got this. It's all good. It's all great. Everything will be fine. And I vividly remember, as soon as she told me, a couple days after, actually, I sat down at the piano and I sang this song, and the words were, I'm coming back into this wilderness where you first found me long ago. I'm coming back into this wilderness, but this time I know I'm not alone. And that song basically really captured my entire life, because this wasn't the first time. This was her third time dealing with this, and the first two times I had been around church. We kind of grew up in church. My mom is always involved in church, but for me, I didn't have any desire for church, for anything that had to do with Jesus Church, any of the above. And so what was so significant about this time was that I was in relationship with him. I was closer to him than I had ever been. You know, time went on, time progressed, and my mom, got sicker, but it didn't deter me. We were still declaring, healing, and my faith was at like a level 10. And in short, by September of 2015, my mom had passed away. The emotion I felt the most was disappointment. And I was disappointed with God. And I remember it was the night she passed away, and I told the Lord, I said, God, you let me down. And you were the one person I knew would never let me down. And you did. And I didn't hold anything back. I said, you failed. She's gone. You didn't do what you said you would do. And so, just an overwhelming feeling of just disappointment. Nothing mattered. That was the exact moment that everything I thought I had ever known about God was ripped away in seconds. So at the time, I had a core group of friends that really just would help out with meals. They would come over, mainly because I was the main one taking care of my mom. And this girl was one of them. And so over the course of our friendship and us being just really close, it slowly kind of gravitated more into a relationship than a friendship, which eventually led up to marriage and just living my life. My relationship kind of progressed, and it wasn't until about a year and a half in, I remember I had taken a break from coming to church just again because I needed time, and I had slowly started coming back to our young adult group called City Life. We would go kind of faithfully every week. I'd get off work and I'd come, and I remember every week I'd be at City Life and I'd be in a corner and I'd start to just cry. And I remember every week I was crying, not just to cry, but I remember every week I would go, the Lord would start speaking to my heart again. And I'd remember everything and I'd say, God, I miss you. So I remember it was Memorial Day. I said, do you want to go for a walk? I was talking to my wife. I said, you want to go for a walk and She said, yeah. And so we go for a walk around our apartment complex, and we begin to talk about just what we feel like what we're supposed to be doing in life, what our dreams are, and even in the context of with the Lord, like what we feel called to do. I remember I said, I think I heard the Lord say something, and I just need to tell you because it's super important. And I told her what I had just heard from the Lord about being in a relationship, but not being able to walk in the fullness of who I was. And she stops. She was like, oh my gosh, I just heard the same thing too. I said, okay, and we talked a little bit more, and that night we decided we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to end our relationship now, here, in this moment, because the Lord had spoken super clear. And I remember that night I felt so much peace. And so from that day we separated, and over the next few weeks, which turned into months, and just over time, I slowly started kind of coming back into the fold of church, and I began to meet with some of my home church pastors, and they began to just kind of walk with me as I ended a marriage and started really walking back into my relationship with the Lord. And I remember just being met with open arms and just saying, all right, Clee, like, let's do this. Like, we're ready to walk this thing out. And so I moved in with one of our pastors and his family for a couple of months just to kind of help me get back on my feet. And I had also just kind of started getting back into the realm of like worship and songwriting, and I was sitting on his couch, and I began to write a part of a song, and the words were, to the one who took my shame away, I'm forgiven. To the one who knows me by my name, I have chosen to trust you, Lord, in all your ways. I'm unshaken by the wind and waves. And if I could sum everything up, that song lays it out. He takes our shame away, and he forgives us in a moment. The moment we repent and just say, God, I'm sorry, I messed up. This is what I was doing, and I'll never do it again. And this is where we're going, and I'm following you, God, wherever you go. In that moment is when shame is taken away, and you're forgiven. And his nature is to love you and to redeem you. And it all just boils down to trusting that he'll do that to the very end of your life.